Welcome to Cockpit Conversations. This is a place where we share tips and strategies for not only getting hired, but getting the most out of your aviation career along the way. Additionally, we'd like to share thoughts on many things that we find interesting at 35,000 feet. Sit back, get comfortable, and welcome aboard.
Hello, and welcome to our next podcast. On this one, we're going to talk a little about the TSA, a specialized training module that we've developed with these two experts to help people get ready for United Airlines. So, Luke, why don't I turn it over to you? I'll start with you. Introduce yourself and tell us a little about how this works.
Good afternoon, Aaron. Thank you for this opportunity. My name's Luke Jacobs, retired Marine, Harrier pilot, retired in 2020, did a year with Atlas during COVID, and now with my friend Wilson here, we're both at United captains and instructors on the 737. Been with Emerald Coast for almost 3 full years now. And we came up with this product, the TSA, the Technical Skills Assessment training, based off of some information that we've gathered over the last few years doing top ops. United really focuses on a third of their interview on the technical portion, meaning how to read charts, how to do some mental math on descending, on fuel conservation, consumption, and really some scenarios, CRM, like a lot of the other legacies do. And what Wilson and I have done is we offer a light version, which is what you pay for as part of your membership here at Emerald Coast. But for those who kind of struggle or don't get it or need more help, which is totally fine. I was one of those guys back in the day. Being a Marine is really hard. This offers a lot of homework and a lot of opportunities to practice on your own time, and an email where you can reach out to us, ask questions, and we get back to you. So it's really like having a private trainer guide you through the process. And that's what that is, because, the technical portion is at least 1/3 of your point systems for the interview. And we just thought it'd be great to, give some specialized training to those people that kind of want more or need more.
Okay. Wilson, what do you got to add to that?
Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here. My name is Wilson McManus. I've been with Emerald Coast about 2 years now. Navy reservist. I was full-time Navy for about 12 years or so. My last active duty tour with the Navy was flying 737s. And one of the challenges that I saw coming into United, which I was fortunate to join in 2021, was that I knew how to fly the 737, but I didn't really understand the airline way of flying the 737. So for me, turning over from the military to the Part 121 style of flying was a bit of a jump. I had to, thankfully I had a good background in the plane and the systems and that kind of knowledge, but learning how United wanted me to do things, how they wanted me to kind of tailor my briefings and tailor, the products that they were going to use and how to employ those was definitely very different than what I'd been doing in the military. And so kind of, looking around at the different resources that the airline has and things of that nature, it's organized much differently than it would be in the military. And so we saw a need for this, initially in kind of a lighter, smaller version for folks who are already maybe flying 121 or have things dialed in. And if you're a current 121 captain right now, you may not need our expanded product, but the expanded product that we built is going to give you a really, really good leg to stand on and very confidently go in and ace the TSA and have a great event on that half of it, which United will sometimes use as a tiebreaker, or they will do different things on the kind of the end of the interview, where if they're not confident in your skills and ability and they're not confident specifically in your CRM, then that's a no typically across the board for them between both the HR representative and the pilot in the room. So anyway, that's kind of some of the reasoning behind we did what we did. And that's a little bit about my background and why I wanted to help develop this course with Luke and yourself.
Well, I found years ago, every once in a while, you'll get somebody who you'd think they'd be really up on JEPs or whatever, but coming out of the military, we use a different approach plates. I think we all run the risk too. You get into kind of a groove, you get a little bit stale, and the information you need at hand to do your job safely, and you even know where you go to dig it. But if somebody sat down and said, okay, let's do the equivalent of an FAA oral right now, you might be a little daunted. Now, you guys have an interesting perspective because you're both simulator instructors there at the United Training Center. What have you seen let's talk past interview for a minute. Do you think this program would actually help the guys who you've seen come into the program that maybe struggle a little bit from the get-go? Have there been people that have had problems with
Yeah.
general knowledge, CRM, or other things? I mean, is there a reason basically that they decided to bring this in and to carry this into the interview process? Because this is a fairly newer process at United. It's evolved.
It is evolved, Aaron. They started doing this about 2+ years ago, maybe 3. And I think being in sim instructors really kind of gives us a little of insight on this. People struggle. This will help you once you get your foot in the door at United too, because we are talking the United language. How do we brief? How do we view a problem like a departure brief out of Los Angeles, with poor weather, a complex SID, turbulence en route. And so we're giving you a really good look behind the curtain on how we talk, how we adjust our briefs, because everyone does it differently, right? My experience at Atlas, flying the 777, our briefs were a lot different, right? There's only really 2 or 3 ways to brief a plate, but there's words that we want to use at United that catches our ears, like threats, personal, environmental, and technical. And we go really into depth on what does that mean? Like how to get the interviewer's attention that this guy knows what he's talking about, and you're already speaking our language before you've become part of our tribe.
Yeah, that's the thing is we want you to start to speak the United language, maybe without you even knowing it. And then the interviewers, immediately pick up on that and recognize. So concepts like flight path first or the cuss words, right? Hey, I'm concerned, I'm uncomfortable, I'm unsafe. Some of those things are actually codified in our flight operations manual at United. But that being said, if you start to drop some of those little tidbits in the interview throughout either your HR or your TSA, you're going to be in really, really good shape because they're going to be like, hey, this guy's already up on some of the things they've already studied and talked to and been mentored by people who are currently at United. So I think that's only going to benefit you, not only for the interview process, but as you go through basic NDOC and training and you kind of build on our building block approach along the way as you work towards your qualification, your initial aircraft.
Well, let's talk a little about the origin of the expanded TSA. For years, even before you guys joined, as technical elements started to infiltrate the United process, it's a much more rigorous process now, I think, than it was a few years ago. A couple of our instructors kind of took it upon themselves. What started as spending a little time in top offs became, hey, maybe we want to do a little group training, and that grew and expanded. And then you guys came in and expanded even further and did a great job. I want to make clear, we're not shaking guys down for their milk money here, and not everybody needs this product. At the same time, years ago, we used to sell simulator prep time for FedEx and Cathay Pacific and a few other airlines. And it came not because I decided I was suddenly going to be a sim mogul. It came because clients were coming to me going, I need help. Do you know where I can get this? And the ability to buy sim time in bulk, to be able to actually have credibility with the sim companies and say, look, I've got a pipeline of a lot of people. Can we set up something here? Worked out to be extremely beneficial for a lot of folks. What was the catalyst, or where did you look around and go, maybe some of these folks need a little bit extra time, or people need a little more extra attention? Where did that come from?
Well, so Wilson and I started getting our toes dipped into the TSA product, and what I noticed was the vast majority of people, our clients, really understood the material, right? With that Part 121 background and being able to kind of capture quickly, because it's a 2-hour class where it's lecture for 45 minutes and then about an hour and 15 minutes of rapid fire style where everyone kind of gets a chance to brief something, and then 15 minutes for questions. I started thinking about my experience getting out of the Marine Corps and entering this world, like this black hole where I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into. And then when I did get a job, it was really hard for me to prep and attend some of these classes. And I always wanted something where I could go online, and when I was in Korea or in Alaska at 2:00 in the morning, wide awake because I couldn't sleep, I wanted to practice. And so not everyone's on my timeline. So Wilson and I sat down over a couple of adult beverages and we're like, what if we make this where people have homework and show them what a release looks like and what is a release, right? Like if I say a release to a Harrier guy, he's like, is that when I release the brakes? Like, I don't know. And so we were like, there's a pocket of this community that just doesn't understand. And I don't think it's well understood outside of people who are in 121, SkyWest people, Endeavor. They get a lot of great training. And so we just thought, hey, why don't we make a product that can really answer questions at 2:00 in the morning, give them some homework problems, give them some practice charts and practice releases and math, and they can do it on their own. And then if they have a question, they can email us. So really I just put myself back in my shoes and going, man, I wish I had this.
Well, it's funny. When we started the simulators, my target audience was dumb fighter guys like me who'd never flown a transport category airplane, just to get the feel of something very different. What shocked me was very quickly I realized it wasn't just me that was out there looking for this. I found guys coming out of the regional airlines saying, hey, look, I've been flying a glass CRJ. This is a round dial simulator. I need to work on my scan. I need to get back to the basics. Oh, by the way, this airplane carries more gas than my airplane weighs. It flies or feels different. Yeah. So what I thought, and you'll find this sometimes, you create a product or you create something for one niche and you find out, well, actually it's got more utility. So tell me about the clients that have signed up. Do you have a typical client, and tell me what you've learned from some of your clients as you've taken them through this process.
Absolutely. I think our clients have been across the board. We've seen folks from both the civilian side do very well with this as well as the military. I think it's maybe been a touch military heavy, and maybe that's because we both have a military background. But that being said, I think it's very, very beneficial for a variety of types of people. And that's what we really wanted to gear it towards. It could be, hey, you're a 135 NetJets guy or something like that. You're on a trip and, hey, you want bits and pieces of this at any time of the day on your trip, when you're not on call, something like that. And that's where this is really beneficial, is you can dive into that and you can start to learn to speak a 121 language just through this course alone, just in the very basics that you're going to need to know both in the interview, and then you can start to carry those forward, hopefully once you get hired at United. But then as well, for the military folks in general, like I said, I was a 737 guy. I flew in a fairly traditional transport role from, either FBO to military base, FBO to FBO, whatever it was. And even still coming to United, there were challenges in terms of learning, again, responsibilities of different roles at United and where things come from, where products come from, how briefings are going to work and how they want them to look and sound. And so that's what we tried to do, was put this product out so that you can already have a little bit of a leg up both in the interview and then again once you actually get here. So that's what it's creating. The feedback has been extremely confident from all of our clients coming off. Every single one we've had who signed up for it has said, hey, I feel way more confident going into the interview, having done and gone through this and done some of the homework. One of the things that Luke didn't mention either, but we also offer the opportunity not just to ask or email us questions, but actually sit down with you face to face and kind of a fireside chat just like this, and quiz you a little bit too. So we're happy to answer questions for a second and then maybe throw one of these scenarios at you live, just like we're talking right now.
Yeah, and what's interesting, a lot of our clients are customers of different interview prep services that have found this, and like, no one else has this. Mm-hmm. It's unique. Not only in the material that we're giving you and the perspective that we're talking about, but it's unique in the sense that no one else is doing this. So, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback. In fact, we had a female captain from a regional go into an interview recently. She emailed me and she's like, no kidding. The TSA portion was exactly what you were talking about. Very similar scenario. She's like, I felt so comfortable, like I was doing it at home. She's like, I hit the ball right out of the park, and she got the CGO, and she was like super ecstatic. And she wasn't even part of the Emerald Coast family. She was from outside the family, and she thought the product was so worth the money because it answers a lot of the unknowns.
Well, you guys bring a lot of credibility in there. You're both military instructor pilots, so you speak the language from those guys. You both work in the training department of 121 carrier, so you speak fluent airline. So I know that our regional folks don't have a learning barrier when they come in there if they want that extra help. Sounds like that was the case with her. Um, for the benefit of everybody, can you kind of talk me through what the basic TSA does, what you're going to cover, and then tell me what the expanded TSA does and how and what the students can actually expect a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start with the light. So the light part is part of your Emerald Coast membership. We try to do it weekly. Wilson and I host one via video, and it's like I said earlier, it's the wave tops, right? So we do about a 40-minute discussion on the United product that they give you, the pilot prep material, which is about 8 pages. It's how we define it, United CRM. It's the product that you get when you get an interview date. The company literally sends that to you. So we talk about that. I really focus on like, what does it mean when we say CRM, or what are we looking for when we say non-normal, and how does United understand it, right? So I try to give you a little bit more background to just a bunch of words on the page. And then we go right into some scenarios. I demo a brief, not so that you try to copy me, but so that when you do practice, you can kind of remember, like compare and contrast. There's 13 briefing items. I think it's fairly organic. Just if you brief a flight, Aaron, if you and I were going to go jump in an airplane and we were going to go LA to San Francisco, I think we would naturally hit all 13 items. So I demo one, and then it goes into a rapid fire kind of setting where everyone gets a chance to either do a departure brief, an arrival brief, or a non-normal situation. Like if we're going Los Angeles to DC, we get a generator failure or a cabin pressurization issue. So we talk about the process. And I really anchor, and Wilson anchors on the process. Understanding that you may not get to the right answer for the divert. Maybe you go to Albuquerque, maybe you go to Vegas, maybe you go to Phoenix. But United cares most about your process. And I talk specifically the fact that, and a lot of 121 guys know this, but our training is only 45 days. It's 2 weeks of indoc, and then it's about 30 days of, learning how to throw the switches to a line check in the sim. Like you're in and out of our building incredibly fast. And so I really talk about like, make sure you have what they're looking for is a good process. You may not get the answer they're looking for. It's not about the answer. Is do you have a process to identify a problem or a risk, build a team, get a collaborative solution, get buy-in, and then execute that plan violently, right? And so I talk about that process, and I really help people understand, and we talk through the process. And then I love doing public math. I get people on the hook, and we do some descent math. And some of my Viper clients have not done so well with this. It's almost like a running joke now. But we do some descent math. We do some fuel computations because United provides 6,000 pounds per hour in the booklet they give. And so I talk about like, what does that mean? Like, how do we figure out gas to our alternate and gas on a divert? And when do we want to land? And I really kind of talk to them about the basics. And then, and most of the clients are really good with it. Like they walk out the door like, okay, I have a good process. I know how to kind of brief now. And they've hit the highlights. And that's where we kind of fold into the more expanded product.
Absolutely. So I'll talk about the TSA premium product for just a few minutes and some of the differences with the light product. So the two key things I would say that you're paying for with the premium product, one word would be context and just extra context. And the other one would be extra practice reps and practice opportunities. So with the context piece of it, we're able to go into much more detail, and we basically take our presentation and expand it, put in some different graphics and slides, things like that to help to conceptualize the concepts that we're talking about. And we basically take this and break it into 3 almost 60-minute videos a piece that you can watch and or rewatch at various times that meet your schedule. And so those videos, right, you're going into breaking down the basics of, hey, here's how the TSA looks and feels and how it's going to fit into your interview. Here's how we talk about CRM. And we really can dive into, some of the types and style of question they're going to ask with CRM and how that might come up and how that's specifically going to be applied and when within the scenario they give you. And then from there, right, we spend another video just demoing briefs, like Luke said. So we show you kind of what the training department's gold standard is, if you will, for both a departure brief and an arrival brief. And one of the things that we can do an even better job in that scenario is breaking down which ones are going to be specific to the aircraft that you fly, because that's one thing a lot of people struggle with is, hey, do I have to memorize every single one of these things exactly like the 737 at United? No, there's only some things that you have to know if that's the case. So there's certain things that you can still brief, like, for example, your evacuation procedures, right? I certainly wouldn't expect an F-16 guy to know how to brief a transport aircraft evacuation, because they're just going to pull the handle and go. So there's certain things like that that are going to be, we're going to be able to provide a lot more context within how you should brief, both for the departures and the arrivals, and make you look and feel like, hey, you're at the gate or you're in cruise about to descend down into your destination, and this is how it should sound. And then the last piece of the TSA Premium that we expound on a little bit more is just some of the non-normals and how that would come out in terms of handling non-normals, handling diverts. Luke mentioned a minute ago the math in public. You don't have to do it in public if you buy our product, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we show you how we go through all the various different calculation methods. You can go back and rewatch that. Then we have an FAQ video. So that was another piece that actually spurred us to create this product, is we said, hey, we have a lot of the same questions that are getting asked at the end of every single light session. Why don't we make an FAQ session that's specific to those questions and really try to clear up the majority of stuff that people have? And we found that's been tremendously helpful with the clients that have gone through already. Once that's all done with and you've watched that material, then I mentioned the practice opportunities. So we have basically generated scenarios where you have departures, arrivals, the plates that are associated with those. We have a basic sample of like a release, essentially, like, hey, I'm going from Los Angeles gate 77 to San Francisco gate Fox 21. We've got the weather associated with all that stuff. We've got everything that you would need essentially to be able to practice on your own time at home, given the sample that we've already provided for you. And I think that's one of the really critical things too, is people are then finding the time to practice and brief in the style and the manner that we give them. And then we give you an extra rep to come and practice with us live, face-to-face, and ask questions if you still have them, either face-to-face or via email. So I think that's really what sets that premium product over the top, is just the fact that you have the context, you have the practice reps, and then if you still have questions, we're here for you.
Well, I'll go back to parallels of other things that we've done in the business. I mentioned the simulator sales. Those were a big deal. We actually did some. United, believe it or not, used to have a simulator evaluation. Mm-hmm. We sold some simulator time for that. But the real driving force at Emerald Coast was the DC-10 sim that was at FedEx. And, you know, there's reasonable preparation and then there's overkill. And some people I thought were doing overkill. And I asked one of them. We had a guy who did 12 simulator prep sessions. These were almost $1,000 a pop. And I said, you know, what's going on? He says, I'm coming off staff. It's a test pilot before that, didn't fly a lot. And I know what it takes for me to feel on the ball and comfortable. Now, his own personal standard was so high, you know, I thought it was overkill. I'm like, dude, a sim or two, you're going to be golden. But here's what he said. He said, you know, that may be the case. But he goes, if I know I'm going to rock this and I don't have to worry about it, my confidence is going to carry over into the interview and into the testing and every other phase. So this is how I eliminate my own self-doubt, by over-preparing. That made sense to me. I actually tried years ago to buy licensing rights to the cognitive screen that for many years Delta used and later FedEx adopted. And I reached out to the company, and they made it very clear to me that it really wouldn't matter if I sold them the test or not, because they were so confident in their test. You could take this thing 50 times. It's not going to change your score. And the point I was making to them is what this simulator customer made to me. I'm not buying your test or trying to buy your test because I want my customers to get a better cog screen score. What I want them to do is go to bed at night knowing I know how to do the cog screen. I'm not freaked out about this. And now they are much more receptive to taking the input when I was trying to teach them how to handle the CRM exercise or to do well in their panel interview. So one of the values that I see this enhanced TSA is if you're the kind of person who has some butterflies, or if you go, man, I just want to know I nailed this, or I think I might have a weak area. When you amortize the investment against a multi-million-dollar career, it seems kind of small. I'm always sensitive. We started the Emerald Coast once a client, always a client, money back guarantee kind of product to basically say, look, we're not here to turn you upside down and shake your pocket change out of you. That's not what we're about. But every product that we have, the background check, the resume screening, all the other stuff that we offer, the logbook services, I didn't wake up one night and go, oh, I think I'm going to find something else to sell. These were all things the clients came to us and asked for. And the TSA was asked for. And as an extension of that, I know you've had a lot of requests for, hey, I could use some extra help. Could I pay you? Would you be willing to? Hey, can I? And that's what you guys have basically answered for them. And I think it's a great product. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of you guys. I'll say again, not everybody needs it. If you're a check airman at your airline and you're quizzing first officers on IOE, you probably don't need these guys to teach you how to brief an approach plate or to do some 60-to-1 math. If you're a fighter pilot like I was, getting drug around the world behind tankers, flying descents and stuff, basically based on your own, TLAR, that looks about right, or I'm going where velocity vector says to go. It's a little bit tougher in that 7.3, and it's certainly a little bit tougher when there's a interviewer leaning into you, asking you hard questions 3 feet away. And I think this is a product that puts a lot of those monsters under the bed to sleep. This is shines a light under that bed and says, hey, there's really nothing to be afraid of. So if it benefits you, I think it's a great product. And the pledge we have is a pledge we've always had. If you need it, it's going to be a great product. Every instructor on our team cares. They're going to throw their heart and soul. We're not going to let you go in there nervous or shaking. We're not going to look at our watch and say, yep, your time's up. We're going to take care of you. With that in mind, tell me what's going on at United right now. I mean, you guys are close to the scuttlebutt. Tell me what you've been seeing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I have the distinct privilege, obviously, of teaching in the simulator facility, and every now and then I have people come through who have their ear very, very close to the ground on hiring stuff. And so in terms of the things that I've heard lately at United, my understanding is right now this year, Chicago is seeing about 1,600. Today is February 26, 2026. That could change next week. Who knows? Current events, things going on in the world, stuff like that. We never know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we do our best to be ready for it and prepared. We do know that we have a lot of pilots retiring. We do know that we have fleet growth coming with a lot of the Maxes have already been delivered, believe it or not, from Renton. The 321s, though, are showing up in droves this year. So the mid-country bases are growing specifically between Houston, Denver, and Chicago on the 321 fleet. So there's been a lot of Airbus growth that's coming in. We're getting our first 321 XLRs this year. I think that happens in May that we deliver our first one. That's going to start to replace some of the 7.5 flying to smaller markets in Europe and places of that nature. But one of the things that we've been backlogged on actually for a while has been the 787 fleet, interestingly enough. That's produced in South Carolina, and we are 20 aircraft behind right now from where we were supposed to be. The company is stating at the moment that those aircraft are all slated by Boeing to be delivered this year. Interestingly enough, one 787 creates about 10 787 captains. And so what happens is the vacuum that sort of sucks upward from, you have these senior captains on the 7.3 fleet or line check pilots, and those guys then bid off to other fleets like the 7.8 to go become captains and do other things. And so that creates kind of the vacuum in the narrow body fleets that they have to replace, along with mandatory retirements. And so that's been a huge factor for us coming in is, hey, we've got to hire to fill some of those gaps in the senior roles in the narrow body fleets. Additionally, one of the things that I heard that I thought was interesting too is we have 4 other 787s that are kind of in a question mark status right now. We might get them this year. We might get them in the future. If it looks like Boeing is going to deliver those aircraft, those 4 aircraft alone this year, that could potentially add to that 1,600 a year hiring number, 500 more pilots, creating about 2,100 for the year. The other thing that I've heard that I think is interesting too with what's going on with hiring projections is, United, it was fairly recent. I wasn't fortunate enough to go through where the United Military Pilot Program, the UMPP, was in effect. But we have a lot of those CJOs that are somewhat, I would call them sort of long-term CJOs, right? Where you have 6+ months, maybe 12+ months where someone has a CJO and then expects to get out of the military and have a class date. And so we're trying to do everything we possibly can to honor those. Scott Kirby and our leadership absolutely love that program. It has a 95% success rate across both the interview and completing basic NDOC. So we're trying to get as many of those pilots in as we can. And to do that, we have to honor those CJOs. And so some of those are actually filling our class dates into 2026 fairly deeply so far. And so that's why you've seen the interviews kind of turn on and off with the traditional pipeline a little bit. So I do encourage you, if you do get the Hogan, choose an interview date that's as soon as you possibly can, realistically being able to prep with your schedule, get it scheduled, get on the books and get out to Denver and let's make it happen. We're excited to work with all the great folks we can and hire as many great people as we can.
Fantastic. Well, any closing thoughts? Anything that's got you guys excited about the next short period of time in front of you here at United?
I think, and this is one of the things I talk about in the top offs, if you choose to use me, is culture. The United culture is just so stable, so open. The flight deck environment is so awesome. And I think that's really the big differentiator to me between United, Delta, American, Southwest, FedEx, UPS. So, I really look forward to going to work when I get called or when I get an opportunity scheduled for a sim. And I think that's one thing that really just excites me every day about the company is that the culture is really strong. It's really friendly, like truly a friendly. We say that, but like I really do enjoy going to work. I enjoy flying the airplane and working with the crews because we're all kind of rowing at the same speed, and the core 4 means something to us.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really awesome culture. I very much agree with Luke. I mean, if you look around American, if you look around Delta, if you look around Cargos or others, I think that the culture shift that's happening in United is incredibly positive, and it really is on a really strong upward trend. And it's an amazing place to be. I'm not going to, fingers crossed it's like that for a really long time. It may not be like that forever. Things obviously ebb and flow, but at the same time, I've really, really enjoyed it. My personal story to that is I had no idea who Luke was until about 2022 when United actually invited me to come to an open house in Denver and said, "Hey, are you interested in being a simulator instructor?" And I was. And I started talking to some of the other candidates and recognized that Luke actually lived less than a mile away from me. And so at that point, I've gotten to meet really good people like Luke, work with them, and same thing.
Wonder Twins.
Yeah, so that's that is what we're going by based off our operations manager. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of both Emerald Coast and United.
Well, you guys are you're a great ambassador for both organizations. Certainly on my side, my team, I couldn't be prouder to have you. You've changed a lot of lives, helped a lot of people, instilled a lot of confidence. That makes me proud. And it's fun to go to work, especially if you've been part of something in the military or been in a culture at your regional where you felt like it was actually small enough, you made friends, you had connections. It's encouraging. A lot of my friends at United say the same thing. They're very happy there. And with an organization, what are you guys up to? 17, 18,000 pilots now. It's
actually,
still
we're almost
18 and a half, almost 19.
I think we broke 19 this year.
Did we really?
Yeah, we're over 19,000 pilots, and we're going to be like 45,000 flight attendants.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to get swallowed up by that and think, oh, this is big. But as you guys know, aviation's a small town. And our little burbs, the hubs, you see some of the same people in the same places and familiar faces in all these corners of the world. So that's one of the things that makes it so much fun. Well, speaking of fun, you guys are a lot of fun. Always enjoy having you on here. We'll wrap this one up for now. But guys, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for giving us a little more detail and sharing what you've got. And obviously, if you guys have any questions that are listening, reach out to us. We love to talk. So let us know what we can do to help you. Thanks so much.
Aaron.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us today. This has been Cockpit Conversations with Aaron Hagan from Emerald Coast Interview Consulting. Have some ideas for future interesting episodes? Contact us at emeraldcoastinterviewconsulting.com with your ideas and inputs. We look forward to hearing from you.